What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. I want to talk about some big data that just came out that's causing the market to dip a bit and what this means for us moving forward. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below or sign up with my QR code that's right over here. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvda stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of the stock. Deposit $10,000 to get $300 worth, and deposit $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvidia stock. You also qualify for an 8.1% APY on invested cash. That includes a 4.1% APY base rate plus a 4% APY extra for 3 months. And the offer is very soon, just a couple of weeks. So if you want free Nvidia stock, check out my link down below or use my QR code. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So the market started off right here around 645. Then we saw the market dip about 3 points so far after we got a very hot inflationary report with PPI. I did say there's going to likely be a big move as a result of PPI. And I was leaning towards downside because of what we saw here. I did say we might be testing 642 or even 640 and then to watch and see if we bounce. And my view still stays the same about this. We could be dipping a bit more if 642 does not hold. I expect 640 and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. But overall, we're still technically on an uptrend, right? We're still making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. Could we come down to like 642, if not 640? Then we'll see if we bounce again off that to make a new high. But if 640 fails us, we could be dipping to 638 and 635. And if we lose 635, this could be causing a rug pull. So we'll see about that just to be safe. But overall, the market is still going to be testing 640. We're going to see if it holds or not. So why is the market dipping? That's the real question, right? SPY is down right now in the pre-market. So is the QQQ. We're going to be approaching 576 on the QQQ, and we'll see if we bounce or not. But why is the market dipping? Here's your answer. PPI is looking horrendous. PPI month over month is at 0.9%. We were expecting 0.2%. That's the month over month for all items. Core PPI month over month is at 0.9%. This is above expectations. We were expecting 0.1 to 0.2%. It's at 0.9%. For core PPI year over year, it's 3.7%. That's well above the expectations of 2.7 to 2.9%. And then PPI year over year for all items is at 3.3%. That's well above the 2.5% expectation. So wholesale prices are going up, which could imply that, it could be because of the tariffs. That could be one factor. Another factor could also be due to seasonality. So seasonality, the higher tariffs, and etc. Also, companies could see supply chains being disrupted due to the anticipation of higher tariffs that happened in July. So all of those factors could have played a role in why we saw prices kind of like increasing the way they are. And typically, or not typically, but a lot of the time, this doesn't always happen, but a lot of the time, PPI is the leading indicator for CPI. So if the wholesale inflation is going up, the inflation for producers, could this be a sign that CPI is about to go up next month? Are we about to see a big surge in CPI like the Fed was telling us about? If we see an increase in the August inflation, especially with the tariffs being imposed, and core CPI starts to explode as a result, this could be a little bit more negative for the Fed's policies. This could be a little bit more negative for markets. So I want you guys to just have this as a warning. There is a risk of higher inflation coming as a result of this, and we'll see what this leads to. Right, seasonality plays a role, and also the tariffs. So we'll see how it goes. On top of this, will the Fed cut in September? We'll see about that. We're just waiting to see what happens with more data that comes out. But as of right now, the market has been pricing that in. Scott Bessent also said that he's the U.S. Treasury Secretary, by the way. He's been saying that he wants to see a 50 basis point cut by the U.S., but he is saying that Japan is behind the inflationary curve and they may have to raise interest rates again. So he did mention that. Um, on top of this, there's been a dispute between Goldman Sachs' CEO and President Trump. Goldman Sachs were saying that there's going to likely be an inflationary risk as a result of the tariffs, and that it's going to be, costing consumers a lot. President Trump disagrees. So there's been some dispute going on, but I'm not going to go into the full details. But for now, the warnings that Goldman Sachs is giving us is that there's going to be a risk of higher inflation. So please keep that in mind. Finally, when it comes to more pieces of news, there's not really much coming out. We have very, very minor earnings so far, so we'll see what that leads to. So, with that being said, what do I see for the markets moving forward? Well, we're technically still bullish on SPY. Higher highs and higher lows are still being made, but we have this tough resistance up here. And we're going to see if we come back down to about 640. We're going to see if 640 to 640 is where we base, then we need to bounce and continue to push for new all-time highs. If we don't hold 640, there's going to be a risk of us returning to 638 and 635. So let's see if we could hold 640 and bounce. It's going to be a very, very critical support. We might dip a little bit more, so be careful, guys. Just want to give you guys a heads up about that based on what we're seeing on the trend. But keep in mind, it's just going to be a very, very temporary dip, and the market could still bounce. So we're still technically bullish in terms of the trend. I would not necessarily just turn bearish over this. I'm not saying that the market is bearish. I'm simply saying that there could be a temporary dip, but then it could be followed by more upside because the overall trend remains more bullish. So keep that in mind. The trend is still more bullish, and we're going to have to see how it goes moving forward. For other tickers out there, I just want to mention that we also happen to have other stocks such as the QQQ. So if you look at the triple Q, it's also very similar to SPY. Okay, we're barely at this trend line. Will the trend line hold? We'll see about that. We still have higher highs and higher lows being made, but I need to see the QQQ basically hold this support. So see the previous all-time high around 576. We're likely going to be testing 576. Then we're going to see if we bounce or not off that. So that also aligns with this green line right here. So see the green line, that's going to be our 20 EMA. If that holds, we could be looking for a big bounce back to the 580s. But if it does not hold 576, there's going to be a risk of more downside. So watch to see if we bounce off this 576 area or not. We'll see just to be safe. Inflation was hot, so give the market some time to kind of price this in. For the IWM, I think we're going to be dipping to about 226, the previous all-time high. We did talk about this yesterday. And we'll see if this breaks. Sorry, it's not the previous all-time high, the previous high. Excuse me, guys. Watch 226 and see if we bounce back up to 230. If not, we could be dipping to like 222. So watch to see if we bounce or not. ES is dipping a bit. So we're testing support at 64.50. If it doesn't hold, we could be going to like 64.30, which is where this trend line happens to be. Then we should try to bounce higher. This is what the trend suggests, as we're still making higher highs and higher lows. If we lose 64.25 to 64.30, we could be dumping to like 6400 or below. But for now, we're going to see if we get some kind of bounce or not. For NQ, we have 23,800 as our support. If that fills us, we could be dipping to 23,600. And we'll see if we bounce. But we're testing the previous all-time high here. So watch 23,800 like we talked about yesterday. We need to bounce here to continue to rally. If we don't hold 23,800, we could be dipping to 23,600. So keep that in mind. Bitcoin's dipping at a bearish divergence. We're watching 118,000. If it doesn't hold, we're going to be dipping to 116,000. But if we hold 118,800, we're looking for a bounce. We're going to see if it holds or not. Tesla has 335 as the main support. We need to hold this. If it doesn't hold, we could be dipping to fill this gap around 330. So watch 335 and see if we bounce. If not, we could be dipping to 330. For Nvda, we're barely holding 180. It might be testing 179. If that doesn't hold, we're looking for essentially 177. We'll see if we bounce. For Appl, we might be dipping to 230. We'll see if we bounce off that. If not, it's 227. So look for a small dip and we'll see if buyers defend. For AMD, we talked about how 185 is a tough resistance. We need to get back towards that. If not, we could be returning to 180 then 177 and see if we bounce off those levels. But there is a risk of some downside. Coinbase needs to get back above 322 to bounce. If not, there's going to be a risk of us coming down to fill this gap around 310. We'll see if buyers defend. Amazon looks more bullish as long as 222 does not fill. So we could be looking for essentially 229. Meta could be dipping back down towards 770 or below. So we'll see if we bounce off that. Google has supported 201. If it doesn't hold, we're looking for 200 and 198 as our support. So we could be dipping towards those levels. Microsoft could also be dipping. We need to get back above 524. If we don't, we could be dipping towards 515. And finally, the VIX is trying to push. Is the VIX about to break past 16 to start breaking out or not? It's still technically in a channel. There's no true confirmation of a breakout yet. So we're going to see if the VIX gets a breakout or not. For now, the market's trying to dip. I do think we might be dipping a bit more. We could be retesting 640 on SPY. And we'll see if we bounce off that or not. The QQQ could also be dipping to about 575 to 576. We need to bounce there. If not, we could be dumping a lot more. So keep that in mind, guys. I'm trying to be very unbiased with this analysis. There is a risk of a bit more downside because we got a very hot inflationary report. the prices are above expectations, and we're going to see if this affects CPI, causing another increase next month. So we'll see how things end up going. I thank you all so much for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.